Okay, we'll call the meeting to order and start by taking roll call.
Shawnee.
Pleased to be here.
Here.
Osgood.
Here.
Here.
Here. Okay, then the next item would be to approve the order of the agenda. Oh yeah,
Motion to approve the minutes as stated.
there's a second.
Second.
Okay, move and second to approve the minutes. Any further discussion? Approved. Not, we just take a voice. Okay, as many in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Move to approve the order of the agenda.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. One of the things that I'd like to just take a minute and talk about the agenda. I kind of sent out an email to everyone, and kind of my thinking is the way we've got this agenda, kind of big picture, is we got three buckets. We've got consent agenda, which is, you know, quite frankly, if anyone wants to pull anything off there, feel free to do that. I mean, those are just kind of the normal things. And a lot of those are dollar amounts. That's what we have to take a vote on. Then the second thing is really our agenda. And the third thing would be things for information only that we're not really taking action on. So I think, you know, as we go through this, you know, what my thing is on the main agenda, we're making decisions. I think we'll have someone present, here's the issue. And then I think I'd like, you know, Sean to kind of weigh in on what their recommendation is from the staff. And not that we need to agree with that or anything like that, but at least then we kind of know what the intention here is for that. And then it would require one of us to make that motion. And so if we don't want to make the motion, we don't have to, or if you want to make another motion. But the idea would be we make a motion, then we discuss it. And so at least we're clear on what we're discussing. And then kind of as we get into these things, there's some things that we just need more information on. So if we need more information on, it's not time sensitive, we'll just kick it to the next meeting and make sure that someone's responsible to gather that information for us. So that's, again, it's kind of a work in progress, but that's kind of the idea. So there's been a motion and a second to approve the order agenda. Any other discussion? Many in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Now we have the consent agenda. Is there anything that anyone would like to pull off the consent agenda or has questions about?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Again, I'll open it up for any discussion or anyone that has any questions.
And just number 4 on authorized travel. We're historically authorized May 26 travel.
That's a little behind us.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a conference that came up between the last meeting and this meeting, so just on the record.
Actually, Mr. Chair, so I assume the quotient group airport roundtable is to approve Madison.
Which number?
That's number 4 under authorized travel.
Yes.
I'd like to recommend that we also include Shannon Fall. She's expressed interest in going. When we first started looking at sending somebody to this group, this quotient group marketing roundtable, initially we had planned to send 2 people from Flint. So I think it kind of makes sense to include Shannon Fall in this, if she's willing to attend.
Be up to the chamber to pay for her expenses then.
She said she'd be interested in going if the airport paid.
Well, it's kind of a litmus test on how important it is for her to go. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good idea. We should invite her to go, but you know, again, we can pull this off and discuss it more if you'd like. But, you know, I'm sure there's a lot of people that aren't directly related to the airport authority that would be interested in a lot of these conferences. And I don't know if we set a precedent where we go with that. But I don't know if anyone has any other comments.
Well, I don't know if we want to pull this off, but we sent 2 people from Flint.
We didn't actually send 2 people from Flint. I ended up going, that was like 3 years ago. And then I think I've attended 2 total. They're very valuable. So, or maybe a percentage. Just, it's not till September, but just thought I'd throw it out there that she expressed interest as an airport partner.
And what's the purpose of that group? What went on when you were there?
That's when I came back, and it's a round table, so airports from around the country attend. And that's where I brought back the idea of having, we talk about everything from parking, major construction projects, troubleshooting, parking policies, marketing strategies. I came back and did a presentation where I talked about how airports were integrating or facilitating their own in-house baggage handling. It's sort of an opportunity for mid-sized airports to come together to better serve their community engagement. I felt it was very valuable.
Well, maybe what we should do is just approve these on the consent calendar, and then maybe by the next meeting, determine who's going, like if Flint's going, if you're going, or who else is going. And we want to open it up to others.
It would just be Madison from the airport, the other can be.
So, okay, so the idea, so we're not really approving a number here, we're approving the event, right? So I don't know if you heard, but the idea would Madison would go to this.
Right. That's what I mentioned, that like Shannon could maybe join Madison. That's all.
Yeah. Okay, how about the ACI marketing communications? What's that?
That'll be Madison.
Just Madison? Okay. Well, I guess, would you like to pull that off and discuss it further, or do you want to approve these and then move forward, we can think about who's going? Up to you.
We can think about who's going. I don't know if we have a policy. I know that the chamber is a airport partner, and I just referenced the initial plan to have the airport send 2 people from Flint, just for context, as you know, at one point it was palatable to send multiple people. That's all.
Well, it seemed to make sense that someone from Flint goes with Madison and bringing more.
And I think that because it's it's not for a marketing company, it's more for in-house, like a board member, administrator, executive director, a marketing department. And so a lot of, well, for instance, every single person that was attending that conference, at my last conference, I said, what airports don't have an in-house marketing person? Not one. So it kind of focuses more on that in-house administrative type person.
So I think the question now, do you want to pull that off, that quotient group roundtable, or do you want to we adopt it?
I think we should definitely approve that Madison goes, and I would hope that we would.
And maybe what we can do is bring back at the July meeting, we can check with Shannon, would she like to go, and what would be the requirement, what she need.
Sure.
And make a recommendation at that point.
Okay. And we can talk about that a little more.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, anything else on the consent agenda? Okay, as many are in favor, signify by saying aye. Well, if no one votes no. Okay, we'll do a roll call.
Krishani. Aye. Heckman.
Aye.
Osler.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we'll move to the regular agenda. Hannah, receive April financial.
Yes, the financial packet is in the board packet. Just to give you a quick overview of it, I can. The operating account looks very solid for the year. We are continuing to track above budget, especially with our.
Tana, can you share your screen?
Yep, I'm just trying to right now. So we are tracking ahead in our revenue.
Make it a little larger.
Is that a little bigger? So our revenue is tracking ahead of budget. Due to the employments increasing, our landing fees are higher. You'll also notice in the miscellaneous fees, they're tracking a little higher as well. That is due to the additional TNC revenue that we have in there. And the parking revenue is tracking ahead of budget as well. So those are kind of the big highlights with the revenue. On the expense side, we are tracking lower in expenses, still lower on the salary and benefits. Those are the two big ones on the expense side. Otherwise, really almost every expense category is tracking slightly under budget. So we will continue to monitor that. So overall for the year, we are about 1.7 ahead of budget. Do I see that changing as the year comes? It just kind of depends. Repairs and maintenance, any additional equipment expenses that we may have that could affect the expenses. Otherwise, I see the revenue being pretty steady through the remainder of the year, especially since our employments are always tracking higher.
So Tana?
Yeah?
It seems we're once again on track to have under budgeted revenue 1 to 2 million and over budgeted expenses 1 to 2 million. So we're going to end up the year again in that 2+ million.
And we are, and part of it is because our budget for 2026 was finalized while we were working on that model with John DeCoster, which kind of helped us set the lending rates and the terminal rents. And because we did increase those a little bit, that reflects in this year's budget.
Okay. Well, yeah, when we get to the budget, I guess we're sort of consistently under forecasting revenue, over forecasting expenses, and celebrating year end that we've done so well. So I think we need to really hone in a little tighter on that. And again, it seems that on the expenses, we continually have unfilled positions as a big point of that, part of that. So.
And I think you'll see with the expenses, they're starting to level out more on the salaries just because we have 2 internal positions.
Yeah.
So our professional fees are going down in our expenses and our salaries and benefits are starting to increase.
Okay. Yeah, well, yeah, let's just finish up here with April as we go.
Sure. So the passenger traffic trends, they still continue to increase. Our employments still continue to increase. We are at another record month for January, February, and April. Darren had just given me the employment numbers for May yesterday morning, I think, and they were 49,603, so just slightly above where April was. So we're continuing our trend to increasing employments. The parking ramp, a lot of information here. The top right one is probably where to focus just because I was able to have May data in there. The ramp occupancy rate, you will see that, January, February, March, April was very high. May has come down to about 52%. However, our parking revenue is still above budget, and that's just because the The other parking areas are increasing in occupancy rate while the ramp is decreasing for the summer, which I think we kind of expect it to do. But as long as our revenue is on track, I'm not concerned at this point.
And Tana, I know this calls for projection, but when we open up additional gates, we would anticipate parking revenue continue to increase regardless of where they sort it out.
We would assume that it would. You know, the parking revenue, I would still say, is based on how many flights are going out. So yeah, as more gates are open, you would think that there would be additional parking coming along with that.
Okay, just wanted to make sure my logic was.
It is,
Okay.
it is. And in the budget, when we get to that point, you'll notice that the parking revenue, even for the 27 budget, has increased, taking into account additional flights and gates and being fully open at that point.
Super, thank you.
The parking project recap, quick recap. We have the $40 million Bank of North Dakota loan. We are very close to reaching that limit, and then anything after that will be out of pocket for the airport. No surprises, tracking as it always has. So nothing has changed, no significant highlights on that. Same with the terminal. The terminal project is still on track. We have one competitive discretionary grant that is still out there pending, but all of our other funding that we were expected has now been recorded. And we are still tracking that 40 to 50 million out of pocket contribution of the airport's cash. So no surprises there either. Does anybody have any questions on the financials?
Any questions on the financials? One of my thoughts, Tana, it might be good to just track the revenue from parking kind of globally, you know, month over month, and then compared to the prior year or the prior 2 years.
And I do track it month by month and lot by lot. So I do have that information if you would like to see it.
I'm just thinking at a high level, I mean, that's a big revenue source for us. And so just knowing where we're headed relates to that, not lot by lot, but just overall.
Sure. You just want to see it compared to like last year's revenue, or?
Yeah, well, I think like you did the employments, I think kind of the same chart that you had, passenger traffic trends, where you've got 24, 25, 26.
Okay.
I think that would be helpful.
Sure. I can do that for you next month.
And I think if there's any other ideas that anyone has, you know, kind of the goal is really take our time in setting the annual budget. And then as we go forward, just tracking, are we on track or off track on that budget goals? And if we get off track, then really sit down and figure out how to get it back on track. So, any other questions for Tana? Thank you, Tana.
Thanks.
Okay, number.
To receive it.
Okay. Can we get a voice vote on that or? A roll?
That's fine.
Okay, thank you. Is many in favor of?
We need a motion first.
Okay.
I make a motion, or I move to approve
Second.
the financials.
Second.
We moved and seconded to approve the April financials. Any in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Okay, number 8, receive bid tabulation recommendations of award mean hunt for exterior signage. Mary? Mary Schaefer, are you with us?
Yeah, I am. Good morning. Thank you for having this part of the agenda today. We did receive bids on May 13th. They came in quite a bit higher than our $175,000 estimate. And because we only received one bid, the North Dakota Century Code allows us to have a negotiation or a discussion with that bidder about the costs. We did a discussion and realized that the added cost was due to the labor of working with the existing signage and refurbishing. and the intense labor hours that were included with that. And so we were able to make some changes, and really what it results in is a fully new set of signs on the airport property. And they were able to come in with a revised bid of $184,923. And so with that, we're a little bit above our opinion of probable cost, about 5.6% above. And we do recommend that the Airport Authority award the contract to 3D Specialties for that bid.
Okay, are there any questions for Mary?
Mr. Chairman.
John?
Mary, this, I know you can negotiate with just a sole bidder, but have we changed the terms of the bid so that if we had done this prior to bids, we would have received more bids here? I mean, you've cut the contract down in half. Have we significantly changed this bid that we maybe should have gone back out and looked again?
Sorry, I didn't realize my video was not on. We can, if the board desires to go back to the out to bid.
Mary, I'm asking you, have we significantly changed the parameter of the bid to bring it in line that, in essence, we have a whole new bid bid package? I mean,
I understand what you're asking.
Yeah, what we want to avoid is having such a rigorous bid package that nobody bids, and then going back and negotiating with a sole provider to make significant changes that if we would have done that on the front end, we might have had more bids.
That is possible. We do understand there were 3 plan holders, one out of Texas, one out of Minnesota, and 3D Specialties out of Fargo. The plan holder in Minnesota was unable to bid because they are not a licensed contractor in North Dakota. And so I don't know that that would significantly change their ability to bid or not if they were to become a contractor in North Dakota. And I'm unsure why the third bid holder in Texas did not submit a bid.
But you're comfortable we haven't significantly altered this to make it, in essence, a new bid?
Correct.
So what was the major savings from 400 and some thousand in the bid to 185?
It was the change from doing refurbishment of the existing signage to providing all new signage, and then just removal of the existing.
Stacey, you're comfortable that we haven't violated bid procedures here by altering it considerably in negotiations with just the final bidder?
What I thought I heard you say it was not altered considerably, but altered somewhat. But
Well,
yes, that's allowed.
Mr. Chair, if we were going to go from refurbishing to new, it seems like, I mean, the numbers, what struck me was the difference in the numbers. Like it seems like a very different, something big happened on this bid, that the savings was so significant, like it dropped by more than 50%.
Well, from my end, that's allowable. Whether or not that's going to be acceptable and or then put out for bid again.
Well, it appears the cost of labor on refurbishing was 300 grand more rather than just putting all new signs in. I mean, is that in essence the difference? I mean,
Correct.
I think we prefer all new signs and we prefer to save money. So I think,
And when,
yeah.
No, and I don't have a problem with it. It's just, I know we're towing a line here very closely that we can't go out with one set of specs, only get one bid, negotiate that bid, change the specs and the negotiations and say, see, this is wonderful. And I just want to make sure that when you see over a 50% reduction from bid price to negotiated price, that you haven't significantly altered the bid. If we would have had these parameters in the original bid, would we have gotten 10 companies to bid? And so
And you're
if our
comfortable that we
attorney
have
is
a
telling
case.
us that
Well, how
that
about
we're
we do
within
this?
guidelines.
Since I haven't looked at the documents, perhaps we just sort of put a stop sign here and I'm allowed to look through everything and be able to come back and,
Well, if this is under their, construction management contract, if they're comfortable with it, you're comfortable with it, I don't see why I would hold it up, but
Yeah, I don't want to hold it up, Mr. Chair, but if the original bid was to be more labor intensive, and then we came back
So the
and
question-
negotiated brand new.
Question would be if the bid went out, so we just want all new signage rather than refurbish, would we have had more bidders?
Right.
I think. But, okay, any other discussion?
So if I'm hearing John and Paula correctly, and correct me if I'm not hearing, if you look it over, you're okay with it, we're good to go? We don't need to come back and,
yeah, it's actually, I believe it's Mead and Hunt's decision, isn't it, Mary?
I just don't want us hanging it up unnecessarily
I mean-
and have us come back and go, okay.
No.
I just want to comply with.
Okay, so I guess
legally.
let's answer John's question, Mary. Is this really your decision and you're sharing this with us for information? Or are you looking for a vote from us?
Well, it's the board's decision to go forward with it.
Okay, so
I'm
you're,
giving you our opinion on it, and we believe that we met the letter of the law when it came to this discussion and negotiation. And it's really due to having one prime bidder, no other bidders. If there were three bidders and we were going to change it from refurbished to new, we would have rebid. It's because it was one bidder that we were not required to rebid.
okay, so this is part of my goal here is we don't talk something to death without having a direction. So I would say, if someone wants to make a motion that we accept this, if someone makes a motion that we accept this subject to Stacy's review, or we can simply table it till next month. Dean?
With full respect for John's concern, and I absolutely hear you, but I'll make a motion with Stacy's review. If she's comfortable with it, I'd like to see us get moving down the road.
So we vote on it subject to her review.
Well, Mr. Chairman, Mary, isn't this under your?
Let's get a second for the motion first. Is there?
Second.
Okay. John?
Mary, isn't this under your construction manager at risk? Or is this
No.
outside?
This is a completely separate bid.
This was not part of the original package in the construction manager at risk signage? I
No.
think it was.
Not the exterior signage, no. It's a completely independent project.
Well, we talked about coordination, Wayfair, wayfinding, everything. I thought that was part of your package.
That was part of the arts and amenities package, not part of the main project. And so, no, it is not going through McGuff. If that was the case, it would be a different conversation today. This was an independent and public bid.
Okay, so there was no signage in the original project.
Not for wayfinding on the airport property on the site. We talked about it a couple of meetings ago before we submitted it for bidding. It was presented, and it's it's a wayfinding package pointing to all the different parking lots and the airport itself. And it's just basically as you pull into the airport and on Dakota Drive and go around, it's all of the signage that is on Dakota Drive.
Paula?
Just to go back to that scope of the Arts and Amenities Committee, and so just as a question, based on, to go back to your recommendation, and I know Raleigh was probably involved in this, Mary, so how
Yes.
does the end result differ when it's refurbished versus brand new?
The refurbishing of the existing required a lot more labor, and that was because they have to basically remove all the signage and, you know, sand and repaint and all of that. It has to be done in a controlled environment. They can't just come out and paint out on the site. And so they had to take it back to their warehouse, paint it, bring it back. In the meantime, they had to put up temporary signs. So it's kind of a means and methods of construction. And they said if they were able to produce fully brand new signs, install those in place, and then remove the existing signage, that is where the savings came in.
Okay, other discussion. The question before us is to approve this subject to Stacy's review. Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Okay, we'll take a roll call vote, so we're spending money.
Rashani?
Yes.
Ekman?
Aye.
Cosgrove?
Aye.
Bergen?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, number 9, approve ADK compensation study, airport list.
Gail is on. This list was sent out to the board a few days ago, so the board had asked to review the comparative airports, and Dr. Walsh is on if you have any questions. So Gail, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I can hear you. Good morning. Yeah, so I just wanted to sort of talk a little bit about why we chose the airports that we did for the comparables. We think that the airport authority should be grouped with other airport authority operated airports because of the governance, decision-making authorities, operational structures more closely resemble those organizations than airports that are managed directly by a city, county, or state department. The key reasons include independent governing boards, as yourself, operational autonomy, you know, with the budgeting, capital improvement, air service development, all the activities that go on in an airport authority. And another key point is that the airport authority performs those functions rather than having them administered through a city public works, transportation, or aviation department, which is what we see in the city and county structure, that the airport is just, it's a department, you know, of that entity. There's an executive leadership team in place, as I can see here in operation. This is again a common characteristic of an airport authority and differs from, you know, the other type, city, county managed. There's an enterprise business model. You know, you're running, the airport authority is running like a business, and generates revenue from, you know, non-government revenue streams. And so with that, we feel, you know, and this is the way that I do many of these compensation studies. This is generally the way that we do them. We compare like with like. In fact, when I do some city and county studies, they'll want me to include some authority because of the you know, that's sort of what airports aspire to, and so that's the golden standard is an authority. So what we will do with this report, if the board agrees, is that we would use these comparables, and that will also bring in some city, local city and county information into the study. And what I would do is that I would consider the city and the county data to be secondary comparator, a group with the authority to be the primary comparator group. And so what I'll do is I'll write the report and I'll report out separately with the airport authority data reported, the city and county data reported, and then I'll do another analysis where we incorporate all of the data together. And that way you'll have a look at the authority comparators, you'll have a look at the city county comparators, and then we'll have an aggregated report to look at. And so that's my proposal and approach, recommended approach to this study.
So Dr. LaRouche, so we've got a list here of probably 30 different airports. And so
Yeah.
I guess the question is that what we're looking at here as a board? Are we approving these 30 airports and then you're going to base compensation on those averages as a compared
Yes.
hectare?
Yes. And I just want to remind the board as well that I may send out to 30 or 40 airports, and that's why I choose this big group. And you can see where Hector International falls. It falls right, in the middle, and that's where we want them. That's really a good sweet spot for that, because then we have airports that have emplanements above, and then airports that have emplanements below, and that's really a great spot to be. And I have to also let you know that, not all airports respond. This is voluntary on their report, or I'm sorry, this is voluntary on their end. What they will receive as a thank you for participating is they'll receive a summary report of the data once the study is finalized, and they just get an average and a median of the various classifications and roles. They don't get, naturally, they would not receive all of the data that the airport would receive. And so I typically get a response rate of about if I'm reaching out to about 30 or 40 airports, I'll typically get maybe a response rate back of about maybe 12 to 15. And I consider that a very good response rate. And that's just the reality of doing these comp studies. I've done about, so far this year, probably about 7 or so. Last year I did about 7 or about 17, 15, 17. And so this is, something that I'm very, very familiar with, and very familiar with the response rates and that. And so that's why I draw a pretty big group.
Well, and I appreciate that. One of my thoughts on this is there's probably 5 or 6 that would really be, kind of more of a target. So I'm just, I look at Jackson Hole just next to Hector, and that airport's quite a bit different because they have a lot of private aviation going in and out there. Probably requires a different amount of staffing from just the emplanements. But anyway, I guess I don't have a problem with going forward on this. It just seems to me that, a lot of wages are more regional rather than national. So, are people going to leave, Chattanooga and come to Fargo or vice versa? I'm not sure. So, that would be my only thought as you're going through this, really making an effort on, we're talking about Sioux Falls and, some of the areas that are in the tri-state are similar.
Mr. Chairman, we've had some email circulated on this. And again, my question is, we spent some time identifying our peer airports, and now we're generating a new list for wage study.
Do we identify our peer airports?
Yeah.
It comes from the same data source.
No, but we said, here's our peer airports, and now we're creating a new one.
Well, Dr. LaRouche, would it make more sense for you to, I know you maybe didn't get our peer airports that we identified. Would it make more sense?
Yeah, I can take a look at them. You can send them over to me and I can, see how they fit within this.
Yeah.
And the other thing I wanted to let you know as well is that we adjust for cost of living differences. And so the report will have an adjustment for, for example, if I'm reaching out to an airport in California, where we know that the cost of living difference is gonna be, sky high, like, I don't know, one of them was like at a 154, cost of living, point average. And so I do those adjustments when I do the analysis so that all of the data is adjusted to your geographic area, specifically, to Fargo, North Dakota. And that's part of what I do, yeah.
No, we appreciate the work that goes into that. I think the issue that we'd want to do is kind of stick with our peer airports, because I think going forward, we're going to want to compare our KPIs with peer airports on what we're doing. And so I think as a board, we're kind of trying to, focus on that group, and we'll probably add some and throw some out. But if you could just look at that, Dr. LaRouche, I think that would be helpful. And you may say, yeah, this is a good group.
And Ms. Chair, and I know you're talking about separating municipally operated versus authority operated, but we are authority operated with taxpayer revenue, which makes us in between those. And so part of the problems, if we go back historically, was this differentiation between similar, maybe not exactly like positions and salaries between the city and the airport. And so I think it's critical that we look to the city pay scales as we're doing this, that we don't want to sort of start the whole ratchet effect through the city to the county. And that, again, I suggested that our policy, we should have a policy on that. And my policy for municipally supported, taxpayer funded, is never lead the market, never lag the market.
Well, I think
that takes us to policy.
There's all kinds of issues to peel back here, but I think what's before us is to approve the peer airports that Dr. LaRouche has presented us for marketing. So I think if we would, we can accept that, or if we'd like her to take a look at the peer airports that we have and maybe come back to us.
Well, and the only regional, or the only in-state airport we have, I think, is Bismarck in there. I do think we should include our North Dakota airports. And I would just ask you to do that.
Well, so the issue is what is the peer group we want?
Yeah.
So what is the timing on this? I mean, is this something that we need to have this report done by a certain time? That's kind of directed to you, Sean.
Yeah, there was a date that the board approved.
I guess my question, how are we going to use this information?
Gail dropped off.
I'm here.
I forget the date that we had put out there. I don't have it in front of me.
But how are we going to use the information?
It's to, like we did before, it's if there's adjustments that are needed to keep within market, that's what the board would decide.
Sure. That's not something that needs to be done next month or the next 2 months.
Probably prior to 2027.
Yeah. So I think the issue we have is defining our peer group. So I would say we send Dr. LaRouche grab what?
The peer group.
No, we don't need to do that now.
It's the same list. We'll grab it.
Okay, I guess we'll sit at ease then.
Yeah, I mean, I can very easily include any peer group airports on this list. I can just include it. That's what's desired.
Yeah, I think Dr. LaRouche, we've never really had peer airports that we've looked at. So I think we want to make sure that we have, and whatever peer group's not going to be 100%, probably won't be correct, but if, as a board, we can say, here's 10 airports that we believe are our peers. And then, again, looking at compensation, looking at some of the other performance indicators as it relate to Fargo, they'll just make more sense to us. So, does that make sense, John?
Yeah, I mean, we've just gone through the period with the, all the construction related to the diversion that we had. A lot of those salaries and wages pushed up in the market. And so it might even be that we find ourselves higher.
Yeah, they come back.
Yeah.
And would it be more efficient to have a tighter group of peer airports? Like this was 30.
Well, I mean, that would be my thought.
Yeah.
Can I just say something? The problem is when you tighten up those peer group airports, if they choose not to respond, there's not much we can do about it. We can ask them, we can beg them, Sean can reach out as a peer and ask for that data, but sometimes we just don't get it. Sometimes, the other airports are so busy, they just don't provide it. And so that's why I kind of broaden it out a little bit so that, because we've got to get a particular amount of data in order for the data to be reliable and valid. And generally speaking, that's at least 5 airports that report in. So I'm just, giving you some thoughts here.
Yeah, and I would say we can help you do that. I can't imagine any of these peer airports, if we reached out to them kind of peer to peer and we shared our numbers with them, they wouldn't be willing to share their numbers with us. And so I think, for those that don't respond on our peer list, we can follow up with them as well.
Okay.
I mean, if we're going to put value on this thing, then we really need to make sure we're getting the accurate input. So Sean will provide you with that peer group that we have. And then we'll just, unless there's a motion, we'll wait on this. So is there a motion? Okay, let's go to item 10. Sean, you want to?
So before you are the request for proposals for legal services, banking services, marketing services. They were in your packet. The legal ad will start to run on June 22nd, go for 3 consecutive weeks. Marketing and legal services will be on the AAA website, so it'll be a national. June will have one other as well. So if you have any questions on the RFPs, let us know. If not, this is what we'll be moving forward.
So the first one is banking.
Legal services, banking and marketing.
Mr. Chairman,
John.
Sean, what you're saying we're going to publish in what, the legals, or what are we going to do to generate?
Fargo form is where we are required to. We
Right.
feel legals. It'll be on our website.
Do we have any other plan though of outreach?
Well, the problem with outreach, as we have talked about before, is if you call one bank but don't call the other, you're in trouble.
Right.
So
No,
it's up to
I
them to go out
understand.
and find it.
Because it's hard doesn't mean we don't do it. We find the way to do it. So.
I mean, that's up to you. If you want me to call law firms and banks, I think that's ethically wrong.
No, let's try to figure out, is there any other way, the traditional, how many people read the legal anymore? And are there other things that we can do to get this out to as many people as possible?
You see, the AAA website works out really well. That goes national. But I don't know.
Well, I would ask you.
I'm just telling you, in the past, legal advice was if you call one bank and don't call the other, then you're in trouble. So
No, and again, I'm not asking us to violate our rules. It's what creative ways can we try to expand this pool? You don't have any?
I don't have any.
Okay, thank you.
It's incumbent upon them to watch the legals if they're interested in the business. and word of mouth.
Mr. Chair, Sean, so I know the banking is different than legal. Would legal be included under, like an Indeed or a, something like that?
Under Indeed.
Or the search engine for finding, opening up for employees or job listings?
I guess we can look at that. We're not hiring one directly, it's a contract. We're not gonna have an attorney on staff, it's through a contract.
True.
Just an idea, we've got a in-house marketing, we could put it on we've got somebody who manages LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook,
It would be on those as well. I mean, that's all part of our website and everything else that we do, so all the social media.
Oh, so it's gonna go on those, okay.
Yes, that's all part of the website.
Oh, I didn't know this was part of the website. Okay.
So it'll be out there. I mean, if people are watching LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook, I mean, we'll have that out there.
So how should we look at these as a board? Should we look at the criteria and make sure that criteria is what we're expecting?
Mr. Chairman, in the request for proposals, and I'm certainly not an expert at these, but the requirements in the RFP can, as we've seen previously, affect who's going to bid on it. And, I would ask that, are these pretty tight specs across these, or are we leaving some room for, I've always argued for new and emerging firms. Sometimes the requirements in an RFP are beyond the capability of those type of firms. Sean, I would ask you, are you comfortable? We aren't so tight on our criteria that there's very few people that will bid on these.
I believe they are. We're going to hire the best qualified. One of the proposals we received, banking services one is almost identical to the one that we used prior years. Marketing services, we had Norm Robinson consult with us on that. He was a great assistance. We hope he will be involved in the selection when we get the proposal.
To speak to the marketing, now that we've got Madison on staff, some of the duties seem secondary. So, like, isn't Madison currently doing the social media management?
It's in this transition, yes, but eventually we'll be doing some of that. We want them to have the capability of doing all of those things. Whether or not they actually will do that remains to be seen, but Madison will be taking over the majority of those items. But the firm needs to be capable of doing all of those items. It's very important.
But one of my questions would be like on the criteria for legal services. It appears 55% is related to relevant experience in aviation law expertise. Well, that's a pretty unique niche. I think a lot of our legal work has been contracts and that type of thing. So, and the cost is 15%. So I'm not sure if I would agree with your weighting on that. And I think maybe explaining it in terms of legal language on what it is we're looking for. So that'd be my only question is, do we dial in all this criteria as a percentage? So we're just checking the boxes. And if we're just doing the RFP, so we don't really have any, other people, whether it's banking or anything else. I think that's what we're trying to do, is to see if there's other people that would be interested, especially in the marketing and everything, so.
Well, Mr. Chairman, one thing you can put into the RFP is kind of a catch-all that makes it more difficult to judge, but you can offer a suggestion of how would you acquire those skills and methods, or how would you seek to sort of backfill if you're short in some criteria.
Well, I think that's kind of was the intent here.
Yeah.
When this came up, it's not that a lot of these vendors have been here for 30 years. I think we should think about going forward, what are the skill set we need? So I'm a little concerned about just sending these out without us kind of reviewing and making sure that this criteria is what we see going forward. So.
The legal ads are set to run, correct, next Wednesday?
We haven't scheduled them yet. We plan on doing it after the meeting.
So,
Do you want to set up a committee to do this? Because
no, I just think we need to. Yeah.
I think that'd be great to have a chance to just review that and maybe weigh in on that a little bit.
so please make some notes on the RFPs that are in the packet so that we can move forward. I don't have any suggestions.
Well, there's no urgency to move forward. We haven't done this.
There has been urgency. I was scolded 2 months ago for not having these out, so they're here now.
Right. So this is
The
the first.
urgency has changed. You haven't communicated that.
Well, this is the first chance we've seen to look at this. So I guess I would just say if there's a motion to send these out, we can make a motion. If not, we'll hold until next meeting.
I would send them out.
Mr. Chair, could I'd like to make a motion to establish a committee to be able to Brooks's point, to take a look at the qualifications and the parameters that we're setting forward to ensure that we're all comfortable with the RFP.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any further discussion? I'll form the committee first. Any further discussion? Okay. So many in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Aye. Okay, motion carries. Be on the committee.
I'll be on it.
Okay.
Do you want to do it, or do you want to? If nobody else wants to do it, I can be on the committee.
I'll have Brooks share it, and then Paula, if you want to be on it, or if you want to add someone else. I mean, I look at this as really anyone that wants to weigh in on anything.
And since they're appointed, they will be public meetings.
Yeah, so we understand that. So if we have a meeting, we just need let Joan will let the press know we're having a meeting. Okay, let's go to item 11.
This is an engineering services contract with Mead and Hunt for the Trumbull Apron Reconstruction Phase 2 that will commence next year. This is for their construction services not to exceed $398,900. Project closeout services of $12,440. Reason for this project and the next item, they're both related, is that we have an opportunity for a federal discretionary grant, so the FAA had us move forward now instead of later to get this under, get the bids. So I'd recommend approval of item 11. There is one slight edit to the legal section that's in there. Stacy, I don't know if you remember the exact wording, but Mead and Hunt will be revising one section in the legal area.
That's at number 12.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's the next.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay, are there any questions for Sean on number 11? If not, is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
Second.
Okay, move and second to approve. Any further discussion? Nothing further discussion. Okay, we'll do a roll call vote.
Shawnee?
Yes.
Heckman?
Aye.
Bosworth?
Aye.
Bergen?
Aye.
Berg.
Aye. Then we'll move to number 12.
This is the bid, I don't know, Jeff Klein is here if you have any questions. For the phase 2, Reedy Construction was the low bidder for $4,276,079.40, which is below the engineer's estimate, which is good news.
Yeah, we opened bids on the phase 2 apron reconstruction last week, which is essentially the center part of the existing terminal apron. Like Sean said, the hope is to get this under a FAA discretionary grant this year, with construction happening in 2027. We received 4 bids. Low bid Reedy was 4.27 million, and then their high bidder was Border States Paving at 6.47 million. And then we also received bids from Northern Improvement KPH. Our estimate was 5.035 million. Everything is in line. And I guess our recommendation is to award it to Reedy as a little bigger. So following a trend of what we've been seeing with build openings this year is the bids have been very competitive and favorable.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Fingers crossed the discretionary comes through.
Was there a legal issue on this?
That was on the previous, it's going to be edited, so
So with regard to the Article 12 and dispute resolution, it had not mandated mediation, that a party could just move into litigation. I mean, there was the discussion of, let's meet and confer and see if
Sure.
we can resolve. So I made a slight change to that where mediation is required before and then fails, then we can move into the litigation process.
And our legal team reviewed and had no issue with your requested changes.
Right, so I think that we can, my changes have been made, but it's not in this document, that we simply, signatures can be had, and we just change out that page.
We can pass this subject to those changes being made.
Correct, yeah.
Is there a motion?
Move to approve, pending the changes have been indicated.
Second.
Movement second to approve, subject to changes that Stacy mentioned.
So the changes are in item 11, not 12. Changes have nothing to do with item 12. Changes are in item 11.
Do you want to amend your motion, Dean, to add the changes in item 11?
Yes, please.
So the motion is to approve 12 and add those changes in item 11.
Apologize for that mistake. So I don't know.
Okay, any further discussion? Do a roll call, so we're spending money.
Shawnee?
Yes.
Heckman?
Aye.
Bosworth? Bergen?
Aye.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Item number 13. So this is that expansion on hangar 19 with the request to do a fuel tank underground. So, yeah, you want to? Yeah, just kind of stand up here. So I think Jack can explain it. Olaf Anderson's here in construction, and Jim O'Day is here from O'Day Equipment.
Yeah, so I'm Jack with Hangar 19, and as Dad said, we are just looking at doing an underground fuel tank kind of on the northeast side for the new expansion. I think you guys have the drawings of that. We got that to Sean. Jim O'Day is here to kind of talk about the exact specifications of that. I understand that's a deviation from the airport's policy regarding fuel tanks in that area. We think this would be superior for safety and operational reasons and fewer fuel trucks moving back and forth and stuff like that.
Any questions for Jim? You want to explain?
Well, sure. For those of you that I don't know, my name's Jim O'Day. And sure, with O'Day Equipment. I've been in the fuel tank business, fueling business for my entire career. So I started in the 70s. So in the 70s, the airport was in the process of removing underground tanks from the field. And there was quite a legacy of contamination from the way fuel tanks were managed in the past. So when I started in the business, fuel tanks underground were replaced when they became a nuisance. Either the water was infiltrating the tanks, became a problem to manage them, or the leaking out of the tanks was significant enough that it was a financial concern. There was nothing about environmental. That all changed in the 80s. Underground tanks were required to be replaced, upgraded. And that period ended in the end of the 90s. And then again, the new regulations came in place that any new underground tank was end piping was double wall secondary containment. So a tank within a tank, pipe within a pipe. And then controls on it that would continuously monitor for any release of fuel being stored, and not only alert the owner operator, but actually shut the system down. So today in the business, the underground tanks are, I don't know, they have a definite safety advantage. If you talk to fire protection, you'd rather not see anything fuel flammable stored above ground. Operationally, I know from prior work with the airport, the indication was to have fuel storage in a designated area down on the south side of the field, which is appropriate. But for this application, when Ward Briggs with Olaf called me for this installation that Hangar 19 was proposing, right out of the gate, the first thing I said, you don't want to do it with an above ground tank 400 feet away. You want to put this tank underground for a lot of reasons, but primarily for operation and safety and for the owner operator. This type of an installation would be subject to North Dakota state regulations, which mirror the federal regulations, which would require continuous owner-operator management of the system, but also periodic, some of it is, no less than annual, that these tanks the systems are inspected and tested for operation. But like I said, any kind of a release is contained, and the owner, the operator, is alerted basically because the system shuts down, so you can't operate. So as far as the legacy systems of the past, those problems have all been resolved with technology and construction changes. So I said it and I'll say it again, if I was putting an installation like this in my facility, a hangar up on the north side, I'd want it underground just for the operational, space limitations in operation. So I believe there is one underground fuel storage tank located up in the north general aviation area owned by the Schatzes. And it's been there for 10 years probably now. And I think they've operated that without any problems. So I don't know if there's any, I was asked to come forward and answer any questions that the board might have.
Dean and then Paula.
And this sounds like an absolutely superior approach. Inevitably, though, that interior tank or piping is going to fail. And what I'm hearing you saying is the system shuts down. Would that require then excavation and replacement? And during that time frame, would the user need to find alternative fueling sources?
If there's not a manufacturing defect in the product, it's designed to have an infinite life.
Oh.
So it's not like at one time it was, the last 20 years and then you replace them. there is no corrosion. Corrosion has been controlled. And generally these tanks, when they do have an issue, it's a manufacturing defect, and they're normally able to be repaired in place.
Fantastic. Impressive, thank you. Paula?
You answered my question. I was going to ask about lifespan, so thank you.
Question, I mean, you would move forward with this tank only if you expand the hangar, correct? I don't know if you have a contract for that. So he hasn't made a commitment to expand the hangar yet. Tear down the old Fargo aircraft maintenance hangar and then build over the top of that space. Second thing is when the tanker arrives on the airport, Jim, to fill this tank, what containment requirements are there for that semi? Like there is right now for Group 6.
Yeah, the regulations are a lot more for transferring fuel from a transport truck into an above ground tank. You need a containment area. For transferring fuel from a transport truck to an underground tank, you need overfill protection and spill containment for the filling area. It does not require a containment pad for the transport.
And that's included in this?
Yes.
It's required? Yeah. So as they said, it is outside of policy. The policy is right now that the board has is the tanks have to be located in that south fuel farm, which is west of Hangar 19, until that space is maximized. Other locations would be looked at. So this would be an exception to the policy if you so choose.
Okay, other questions? I obviously will recuse myself from this, so I'll turn the meeting over to Dean. You have
Any other questions, concerns? I find this an absolutely superior approach and outstanding basis to make an exception to past practice.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you very much, and I'll turn it back to the chairman.
Okay, 14. Mary, are you still on?
I sure am. Good morning again. I will share my screen for this discussion, and Joe Casper is in the room, I think, because he'll be participating in this as well. So, one sec. It went to the other screen. Let's get.
So I think the first issue is the tile floor.
Correct.
So
So tile.
We've
Yeah,
got possible action on that. So maybe just kind of focus in on that part of it and kind of what we're thinking needs to be done and maybe a recommendation there.
Absolutely. So after many discussions on the white tile in the restrooms, it's looking like the airport would like to make a switch to a darker tile in the restrooms in the renovation, and then potentially also replacing the white tile that's in the existing restrooms on first and second floor with a darker tile as well, for ease of maintenance in those areas. And so McGuff has gone through and priced two separate options for that replacement. One is the tile that's currently in the admin restrooms. It's a gray kind of variegated tile that would be a 2 foot by 4 foot format. And so there's three pricing here. The one on the very bottom, the 31,000 is to put that tile into those second floor renovation restrooms that have not been tiled yet. And then there's
a little bit, Mary.
Can I
enlarge that a little bit, please?
Sure. Yeah.
And so
How's that? Yeah.
That helps. So just kind of to high level be clear. So want to replace the tile in the restrooms. And then what was the other
That's,
piece?
yeah, that's the direction that we're getting, to look into what it would take to do that. And so the the renovation restrooms that have not been tiled yet, the cost to put the same tile that's in the admin suite is $31,443. For the other two restroom blocks, there's the second floor, well, the first floor tile, that would be a demolition and a replacement of the tile. That would be $52,902. And then for the expansion, where on the second floor at the concourse, where the existing tile is there, the replacement, so demolition and replacement would be $110,358.
So that, Mary, could you stop right there? So that would be replacing the white tile in the terminal part that's already been done.
Correct.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, are we talking about the terminal or the bathrooms?
Well,
Bathrooms.
Restrooms.
We're just
Only
talking about
restrooms.
bathrooms, not the concourse at all.
That's correct.
okay, I misunderstood that.
Mary, who made the decision to go with the white tile?
The white tile was approved at the board meeting. I believe it was in December of 2023. And so it was approved by the board,
And
all of the finishes.
who made the recommendation to use that tile?
That came from our team. And we've had this discussion in previous board meetings. So,
Mr. Chairman, it seems we've transitioned from the concourse to the bathrooms. And the original problem was coming through TSA, the snow and dirt and everything there, discoloring the carpeting, and then moving on to the white tile with the white grout and carrying that mess forward that was highly visible because of the white tile. Now we're talking about spending $100,000 on the bathrooms from the administrative offices, but not doing anything with the concourse?
Well, I think there's several different steps here. I think recognizing the problem with cleaning it in the bathrooms. I mean, Sean, you can share what you told me about that. I think that was
Yeah,
interesting.
just, one morning, down there at our staff, it was, the restrooms were clean, the floor was clean. After 19 people had used the area, you watch 4 of them use the hand dryers. The others walked all the way down the sink area to the paper towel area. And within 7 minutes, you couldn't even tell if the floor had been cleaned. 7 minutes. You had no idea. And it was pristine before we kind of set up that little experiment. The concourse is one thing. Yes, it is kind of a mess during the winter. I do agree with Mr. Cosgriff. Can we live with that right now? The bathrooms is where I think our staff, and Dan is here, are spending most of the time. The concourse is something we can probably live with for a little while, but it's the restrooms are what's most desperate and most time consuming for our staff.
Mr. Chairman, Sean, what we're gonna do with the concourse is throw additional variable costs at it for cleaning that we shouldn't have to if we pick the right product.
It's not that I agree. It's not that our staff isn't cleaning them on a routine
No,
basis.
I'm not saying, but what I'm saying is that what we're doing here is the solution is transferring costs back to the airport on a variable cost basis, that we're gonna have additional cleaning throughout the life of this product. Or 5 years from now, we're gonna be frustrated with it and pay for tearing it out and redoing it.
Maybe that is a decision that we do make in 5 years, possibly for the concourse area, not the.
But again, I do not recall the meeting where we picked white tile.
I frankly don't either, but I'm happy to go back and look at the video.
Well, let me just kind of try and frame all these. We've got like 10 different issues floating around here. So I think the most important issue really is the tile that was picked out is not the best choice for the terminal. So I think you know, really unless this board made a decision to change your recommendation, that decision's kind of on, if you will, it's our contractor, it's on Mead and Hunt. And so that's kind of an issue that I think we should just set aside, but we need to drill down on that a little bit more. Because that's what I would say was a poor decision on finishes that was recommended to us. So then the other issue is, again, no offense, but I'm not concerned about the administrative restrooms. But I think the restrooms that are on the main floor that are being used a lot, with what you've shared with me, I think we need to put in new tile in those, you know, as part of our construction thing. Who pays for it? I mean, that's kind of an issue going back to, you know, whose responsibility was it? And I think the other issue is the west terminal, as that gets completed, you know, are we looking at a different tile in that? And then I think the final question is, you know, again, this is probably a discussion between, you know, the recommendation and the airport, who's going to pay what. I mean, I think that weighs into, if we're responsible for it, you know, do we want to just spend the money on cleaning, give it some time, or do we want to replace it now? So
There is a little bit of urgency with the west area where they haven't placed any tile. All of the white tile is here.
Right.
It's already done. You can't return it. It's doing a pivot right now just on the restroom portion with what they've recommended here. I do have one question, and Mary and Joe might know. Gina said the tile that's in the admin restrooms right out here would not work in the restrooms, but there's a different version of it that's.
Yeah, it will work. It has to have a certain coefficient of friction. And so, but yes, it is available, and that's what's priced on this. I mean, not to complicate it, but we're not recommending any change to the admin restrooms. They are done, and that we're just saying the tile that's in the admin restrooms would be the tile that went into the renovation.
okay, so let me just isolate these issues. So the most important, most timely issue is, what do we do with the tile on the west end? I mean, the bathroom's tile's in, we have to replace it, we replace it. But that's not an urgent decision right now, so.
Right.
No, so.
Correct.
Yeah, the three prices, the bottom one, the 30 grand, is to order that new tile for the west side. That is an urgent decision because we don't want to put the white tile that we have in now and then end up ripping it anytime. The expansion bathrooms can be decided.
Is this just for bathrooms?
Correct.
This is not concourse?
Correct.
In the renovated area.
Three prices are each bathroom.
Okay, let's talk about the east side and west side, just so we're clear.
Yeah.
So the biggest issue before us right now is doing a different tile on the west concourse.
Correct.
And how much is that?
For that tile, it's 31 grand.
So for 31 grand, we'll get a different tile on the west concourse.
No.
Just in the restroom.
In the bathrooms.
Bathrooms. West.
Just in the bathrooms. We're not looking to change the tile in the concourse.
We don't have a price to change the tile in the concourse, correct?
Correct.
We only price bathrooms.
Why did we not price the concourse? I mean, if that's a problem.
I was told to price bathrooms.
Okay, well, I mean, regardless, I guess it's the committee. It seems to me that if we're really displeased with the white tile on the east concourse, we don't do the white tile on the west concourse.
It's up to you guys.
So.
But we've already purchased the white tile for the west concourse. Could we resell it?
I have no idea.
I'll sell on,
You can talk to Red about that.
Tiles.com.
yeah.
If you want a price for the entire concourse that's been completed, what is to be completed, certainly get that
Yeah,
price
well,
for you.
I think what's already done is kind of not an urgent decision. It's what's to be done. So I would say if what we have before us is to put the different tile in the bathrooms in the west concourse, you know, we can vote on that. I do think we'd like to know a different tile in the west concourse too.
That will have schedule impacts.
And if we need to have a special meeting for that from a timing standpoint, I think what we'd like to know is, you know, will they restock that? Is there a restocking fee? Could we push them?
Completely custom tile. we've gone down that path. They cannot take it back. It's a custom tile for this project.
Joe, who picked the tile?
The design team and the board at the board meeting that Mary referenced.
Yeah, all of the finishes were picked at the meeting she referenced. So there was a whole catalog of finishes. That's what was picked.
Well, let's do this. Let's vote on the bathrooms for this 31, and then let's get the numbers for the west side on that tile.
Yes, we can do that. That will be very urgent to replace the tile on
Right.
the west concourse. We are starting tile in 3 weeks.
Well, Dean,
Well, I don't want to note that Joe mentioned that there have to be implications for schedule. And I would argue it'd be a mistake to put in tile that we know is not going to work. And at the expense of staying on schedule. Because sooner or later, we're going to want to go in and change that out too. So I'll spend a lot of time and money on that.
So just a question, could we make the move to spend 31K right now, pick out a new tile and stay on track for the 3-week schedule? Is that doable?
For the bathrooms, yes.
To me, that seems like the one urgent thing. Let's
but then they need to tile the west concourse too.
If we are changing the west concourse tile, that will extend the schedule.
Which
That's where they
hasn't been done
bought
yet.
the tile for the west. It's the same as the east.
The tile for the concourse for the west has not been purchased yet.
It's all here.
Yep.
It's all here.
It's all been purchased.
Oh, okay, I understand. The 31K is for,
The 31K is to change the west concourse renovation bathroom to that tile in the picture. And we can get that it's in stock, and we can get that and stay on schedule on the whole west concourse, because currently our understanding is we are putting the white tile on the west concourse. So the 31K is to switch the bathroom on the west side to that tile, and we can get it in 2 weeks and stay on schedule.
okay, so do we know we want to do that?
I think so.
Concourse side, so
Yeah.
should we just make the move on that
I think so.
and then talk about the concourse?
That would be my recommendation. Paula?
Mr. Chair, Mary, so I'm not looking at the tile right in the administrative bathrooms. Dan, you probably have more experience with this. Does that hide the water spots and the wear and tear exponentially, like that much more? Because that still seems very light. And what I'm comparing it to is, for instance, the terrazzo on the main floor that really just hides the water spots, the dirt, the wheels, the whole thing. That still seems relatively light.
Well, I'd much rather have terrazzo.
Yeah, yes. Well, like maybe a more speckled version or something, since we know that the issue is like the water spots and marks, does this give us enough variation?
What in here is that we can take a mop and we can mop it and it cleans it. The white tile, a mop does absolutely nothing. You can go over it as many times as you want with the mop and you'll still see the footprints. The only way to clean it is to deep scrub it. And you'd have to deep scrub it every hour, which means shutting the bathroom down, and we can't do that.
So the opportunity here is if we put this in new bathrooms, we'll have an idea on how it looks and, spotting and that kind of stuff. So again, I think.
Well, I mean, not to complicate it anymore, and apologies for interrupting, but there is another option, is to use the same tile that is currently in the family restrooms on the concourse level. And that is this tile. It's more expensive than the other to purchase, but it would be the installation in the second floor. It is more expensive. It's $109,000 for that tile to go in. It's a larger format tile.
For the bathrooms?
Yeah.
100 grand more?
Well, 100 grand for that versus the 31,000 for this.
Mary, do you have a speckled option?
We don't have another option right now. We took the two tiles that were already in place in the airport and asked, and Joe looked into the lead times, which is the 2 weeks. They're both available, and then
The
these were the
second one is
costs.
14 weeks.
Yeah.
Option
Oh, second one is,
14.
oh, sorry, 14 weeks.
This is really frustrating to me.
Yeah.
You know, we're kind of relying on you to, you know, do the interior. Now, obviously, as a board, we've made some changes, but these are recommendations that you gave. We're telling you now that, you know, we can't maintain them like we expected. And so I think, you know, if, you know, we need some realistic options. And maybe we don't use custom tile for the restrooms. Maybe we get a standard tile that looks good, that fits in. But these are urgent things that we need to make a decision on. And I think the same thing with the west terminal is, you know, I mean, we need a recommendation on what alternative you would use, knowing that cost is an issue, but we want it to look, you know, fantastic. So we've got to find product that, you know, fits the right color that you'd recommend for flooring. 2, that we can get it in a timely manner. And 3, that it's, you know, doesn't totally blow the budget because we're paying for tile twice. So
I know Gina is on. Gina, do you have any thing you want to add?
Dean?
Well, and this may be back in, I don't want to personally dive into the tile colors and stuff. I'm not taking issue with that. But I would like to have a backup stipulation that we quit putting in the white tile that we know we don't like and are going to have to replace someday, even if it has implications for schedule.
I agree.
And whether that's the bathroom or the concourse, quit putting down tile that we know is unacceptable.
Would you make a motion to that?
Yes, consider that a motion.
Second.
Joan, do you have that?
Mhm.
So the motion would be not to continue the white tile in the west.
Concourse or bathroom.
Mr. Chairman and Mary, what was the base bid? What did, you know, before we made it, what was gonna go in there?
And the west renovation?
All the tile. What was the base
That's the white tile that was selected.
that we bought, that we've already bought?
Mhm.
And how much money is that?
Okay, let's do this. One, we've got a motion on the board not to continue the white tile.
Well, and I'm all for that. I just want to know how much.
Well, I think what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to get some numbers from you on this west concourse. You know, again, just like, you know, John is asking for, you know, what's our bid? What have we spent? When you come up with an alternative tile, what's that additional cost? And we look at that so we can make a decision.
I absolutely agree. We don't want to continue with what we know doesn't work. But I do want to, how much have we spent on this tile?
I don't have the number off the top of my head. I can pull
Well,
it up.
let's vote on this, and then those questions will have to be answered.
And I think Joan caught this, with implications for schedule being excluded.
Now we should keep on schedule.
In a perfect world.
All right, so any further discussion on the motion to not continue the white tile on the west side of the terminal? Okay, as many are in favor of that, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. And so I think, I mean, it just goes back to you to figure out a solution for us.
Yeah.
And you know we're gonna have questions on the costs, and again, but at this point, we need answers.
What do you mean by a solution?
Well, we're gonna have to put some tile in, right?
We're gonna have a floor covering.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna. What solution are you looking for from Magana?
Well, I mean, I'm looking for them to come up with an alternative to the tile that they selected that we can't maintain.
What do you mean, John?
Yeah, so again, I don't know who's responsible, but I mean, you're kind of the point guy, so whoever, you know.
They install whatever's recommended.
No, I get it.
Mr. Chairman, and I think this is where the rubber is gonna hit the road here, is this is the first time I've ever dealt with construction manager at risk and who's making decisions and where do those cost factors end up with these decisions? And that's kind of the question I have at this point is who was making the recommendations, who was making the decisions? Because what we're talking about is picking up the tab. And I don't think it's all on the airport authority. I think there's some culpability to be shared amongst all the partners here.
So those are kind of the two issues hanging out here. The one issue would be, your direction to find a different tile that, from a maintenance standpoint, is easy to keep clean.
We will not do that. We do not design any of the building.
Yeah.
We are provided drawings.
Who works for you? McGough?
Who works for me? I am McGough.
Yeah.
I do not work for Mead and Hunt is the design team. They design the whole building.
But they report to you?
No.
Oh, really?
No.
They're totally separate?
Yes, they report to you.
Okay.
Yeah, we all report to you, Chairberg.
Yeah. Okay, so then from Mead and Hunt, you need to figure out a different tile for the west end, present that to us, present those costs to us. And then I think to John's point is, we need to understand, who's going to be responsible for that additional cost.
Just one last question.
Yep.
Based on the vote that just happened, are you shutting down work as of now that's going on, or is it going to start in 3 weeks?
Yeah.
That's now not going to happen?
Correct.
Okay, all right. So from an urgency standpoint, we meet again in a month. We're shutting down work on the facility for a week minimum here. Do we need to speed up this? I mean, do we need to?
100%.
We're not going to wait a month to make the decisions we're asking for, correct?
How much time would you need, Mary, to have an alternative tile and pull those numbers together?
Gina, do you have an answer to that? Gina's the one who will be doing that.
Yeah, I can get that done right away.
What is right away?
This week.
Yeah, I can get it done by the end of the week.
Okay, so we'll maybe plan on a special meeting on Monday or however it works with people's schedules, but it'll just be to deal with that topic.
So what needs to happen is Gina needs to pick a tile or perhaps two options. I would make that recommendation. Joe will need to give pricing to do that. And then the understanding would be this is the tile that will replace the white tile, which is CT4 in the west renovation.
Yeah, I don't know if we need two options. You just pick the best one.
Well, we've
I'm
kind of
okay
gone
with-
through that.
I'm okay with multiple options.
Two, not multiple. Okay.
Well, there could be different options with pricing and timing as well.
Well,
So,
timing's gonna
and
be
that's what
critical.
Joe will need to do the pricing and the schedule implications for any change. And we can help with the product recommendation.
All right, okay. So do you have any questions, Joe?
Nope.
Okay.
Tile is absolutely on the critical path, so lead time for the tile will be a big deal.
Is there any stock tile? I mean.
Tile option number one is here,
Okay,
It's.
in stock.
let's not talk about this anymore unless someone has a motion. Paula?
Mr. Chair, over your shoulder, Dan, looked like he had something to say. And I would also recommend that Dan be consulted, during this process to make sure, because he's the one in charge of maintaining it.
My only request is that any product they put down is proven in a high traffic area and in a northern environment, not something that's used in the desert. We have a different environment, people walk in, their shoes melt off. We need something that's proven for this climate.
Okay, thanks. Do you hear that? Mary and Gina?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah. Thank you.
okay, so Godspeed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. So, okay. Are we moving to the windows next?
Yes.
Right, so just
Okay.
give us a quick overview on that and what's your recommendation?
And that is more coming from Joe. So, and I think Dan had some, or not Dan, Darren has.
Okay, let me give a quick overview. So when they took the walls apart, they found that water was leaking between the walls. It's not coming inside the terminal. And so, it's probably been doing that for 20 years. And so the challenge is, what do we do with that? And I think there's two recommendations, one that's maybe more of a shorter term fix and one that's more of a long-term fix. And my understanding, the long-term fix is $1 million. Short-term fix is.
We don't have a price for the long-term fix because that would require an investigation on the existing facade, where it's actually leaking from. A design team would have to provide new details and they would have to be priced, and I don't know. I wouldn't have a time frame or a price for that.
How do we make a decision on that?
Well, our proposal right now is to do what I would call the Band-Aid fix and treat the walls from the interior, basically spray foam the entire renovation side of things, which would allow us to continue finishes on the interior of the building. So if we don't do that fix, we're essentially stopped on those walls with drywall, because we don't want to put drywall and finish and paint on walls that are technically leaking.
So your recommendation is to seal it and drywall
it and stay on schedule.
Okay.
As a temporary.
Excuse me,
As a temporary.
Sharon, I think that's a really good recommendation, just to keep moving, because it's gonna take some Sean and I talked about it, and we're gonna probably be looking into that and what we're gonna have to do, and then it's gonna be an extensive kind of thing where, there might be a start and stop, there might be, there might be a number of different areas, so it's a great way to go and continue on and not damage then anything new if you put in.
Thank you. Any questions for Joe or Terry on that? And our concern is just that our terms are 5 years, so make sure it lasts 5 years.
So what we're doing is temporary fix, go on.
It would be a change order.
And start the process to figure out what the long-term fix is.
So what's the cost?
I think it was 108,000.
Okay. So is there a motion to approve?
To do the temporary fix and continue the investigation of the permanent solution.
For a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? We'll take a roll call vote.
Sean? Yes. Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So then the last item here is the concourse nurturing room and nursing pod. So
Yes.
Go ahead, Mary.
Okay, thank you. So we received some information a while back from Paula on the laws around the mother's rooms and airports. And so that was taken into account here. And I should back up to the discussion was we were intending to relocate the Mama Va pod, which is a totally enclosed pod that was used prior to the building expansion. And then McGuff has been preserving that within the space so that they can move to its final location. And so that had been shown on the plan since design development, and that was the intention. So we have the one fully built new mother's room that's in the new expansion in the concourse, and then we were going to relocate the Mama Va pod. So the question came up, do we really want to relocate that pod, or do we want to provide a second mother's room on the west side of the concourse? And so first, just confirming that as a small hub airport, Fargo is required to maintain one lactation area and a baby changing table, which I know there's plenty of baby changing tables throughout, and we do have one lactation area. The other law is the part of the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2023, which is also known as the Pump Act, which also requires one lactation area within a small hub airport. And then there's a this is not law, but the Airport Cooperative Research Program, or ACRP, the research report 226 is regarding terminal restrooms and ancillary spaces. And their recommendation, which is, again, it's a recommendation or a guideline, it's kind of a best practice, the ACRPs, that recommends that there be one mother's room every 900 feet in a large terminal. So your terminal expansion and renovation altogether across the entire terminal were under 800 feet. So in theory, you're only required to have one. If you do have a second one, it could be the Mamava pod. And it would be located relatively close to the other nursing room, which would allow for you to meet ADA because you do have a compliant one nearby. The recommendation, though, we were asked to look at by Chair Berg and the couple other people from the airport, what would happen if we decided to add a second mother's room. And so looking at the plan, this is the west expansion plan. I can enlarge it a little bit so you can see better. But basically the two possible locations, option one here is where we originally intended to put the Mamava pod. So you can see the size of the pod is quite a bit smaller because it's a single person room versus if we were to add in a full mother's room on this side. We have a little bit of door reconfiguration that would be required for exiting from TSA and the multipurpose spaces. But otherwise, this could fit quite nicely. We would lose one potential seat in the hold room if we were to do that. Gina, anything you wanted to add on that one?
No, we would lose one seat. That as far as beam seating, we would lose the one seat that's highlighted there in green.
And then if we wanted to move it closer to that kind of central core, then we could have a mother's room in this location, kind of that southeast corner of the hold room, adjacent to the restrooms, which there is an advantage because you're pulling, you do need a water line for the mother's room, so you're able to pull it straight over from the restrooms. Otherwise, there's a little bit longer run for water. And then there was an option to add a second Sarah if you wanted to, have all those kind of amenities together. And there, I think Gina had a total of 16 seats would be lost if we went with this, just the mother's room alone. And then if we added the Sarah, there would be 25 seats that would need to be displaced for that. And so those are the two options of locations, and then of course the third option is to relocate that Mamava nursing pod to that location that was intended initially.
I also do want to mention on the first floor, there is the first aid room that could also be used as a lactation nursing room as well.
Okay, so first, before we go further, I would excuse anyone that doesn't want or need to be here. You don't have to continue on. Second of all, just to kind of, I think the issue is this. We designed a nursing room and then we have a pod that we've been using and you've got a position for the pod. So I think the question before us is, do we want to do something else? Do we want to add another nursing room? And I understand you that the current layout meets the requirements.
Correct.
Okay, so then the question really is, I think, if we do another without really getting in the weeds here, if we do another nursing pod or nursing room on the pod, what's the cost? And, you kind of described the seats we're gonna lose. So, that might be, if we're thinking about a motion, that might be a motion to, add another nursing room. We're getting pretty late in the construction to make a lot of changes, but I don't know, Paula, did you have some comments?
I do.
Yep.
I prepared a little bit.
Good.
So I commend our staff and Mead and Hunt for looking to the future and adding, considering adding an additional nursing area when it is not required by our federal law. The one nursing room we have does satisfy the federal requirement of the original law. The current pod we have is from 2017. So much like the discussion we just had regarding the signs, sometimes it becomes more cost efficient to not try to fix or use what we've already got, but just to start with something new. So a permanent nursing room better supports long-term passenger needs through ADA accessibility, running water and sanitation, enhanced privacy and comfort, improved maintenance and durability, and consistency with the architectural vision of the newly renovated terminal. Given the airport's continued growth, the anticipated 30 to 40-year lifespan of the renovated facility, and the age and limitations of the existing nursing pod, a permanent integrated solution represents the most appropriate long-term investment for our passengers and our airport. We have the opportunity to create a permanent amenity that reflects the quality and longevity of this generational terminal project. A built-in nursing room provides a fully accessible environment, accommodates sinks and other family-friendly features, and eliminates future replacement costs associated with aging pod infrastructure, and preserves the cohesive design of the renovated concourse. And so as we complete a facility intended to serve travelers for decades, we should invest in solutions that are permanent, accessible, maintainable, and consistent with the overall passenger experience that we're striving to deliver. Of note, a nursing room built into a $120 million terminal becomes part of the facility's long-term infrastructure, whereas a pod is generally considered a movable piece of equipment that will likely require replacement. That creates future capital and maintenance costs that a permanent room largely avoids. I would also like to mention that Sioux Falls, in their addition, they're planning post-secure to have a nurturing room and a lactation room. A lactation room has a smaller footprint because it's focused on like the pumping aspect. And so you could get a smaller footprint with an amenity like that. But we talk about, our peer airports and what a peer airport is doing. And that's what Sioux Falls is doing. They're going over and above to create a welcoming environment for young families. And I just ran into a young family 2 nights ago, and they were raving about our current nursing room and that Fargo had thought about young families. And, a nursing room gives like a rocking, typically like a glider. The sink, I can't imagine changing a baby's diaper and not having a sink, or for those that are pumping to not have the sink to wash their equipment. Some people have more than one child. They might have to be traveling with 2 children. They might have twins. A lactation pod doesn't serve our passengers as well as a permanent structure.
So.
And we're already investing in, some, like an alcove or, 3 walls. So long-term.
You have a motion.
I have a motion. I make a motion to move forward with a permanent integrated nursing room within the renovated concourse area. I didn't hear the cost differential between, bringing the plumbing over to that location. Another thing is, if you have a nursing pod that doesn't have a sink, it's supposed to be by a sink. So it seems to me that this location for the mom of a nursing pod that was initially proposed is too far away from a sink anyways.
You're saying the light green one's too far away.
If you're just gonna put a pod in, because there's no sink.
Right, but we're talking about a room.
I don't have, I think it's a natural location to have it near a restroom.
So you're saying the blue one.
Mm-hmm.
So do we know what the additional cost would be for that?
We put a square foot price to it, so we're talking 200 to 300 bucks a square foot, about 100 square feet. So we're talking 20 to 30 grand. We could not put a firm price on it until we have the actual plan in front of us and get pricing from subs. But the blue option will be a little cheaper because the water line's right there, and that's really the only variable between the two rooms. Other than that, it's framing walls and a couple outlets and a sink.
And then we would lose, we'd lose 25 seats? How many seats?
Well, that's if you did a Sarah, you would lose 25. Otherwise, the nursing pod would be through, you would walk through in this seating area. And I believe it was 16 seats that are.
I think the motion is to put a room, correct, Paula? Yeah, so that would be 25 seats.
16.
It would be 16
Okay,
if
hold
you
on,
did
hold
a
on.
Sarah also.
Too many
Yeah.
people are talking. So Terry?
I was just wondering, I mean, so again, at an airport this size, removing that many seats, is it really that difficult to get water and sewer over to that other location?
No, we can get water.
Yeah,
We can get wherever
I
we
just
want.
don't see that as that. I don't think that's a good decision from the standpoint of we just expanded so you could have all these more seats. Now we're getting rid of a substantial number of seats, or we only get rid of one. And for the cost of that would be pretty negligible, so.
Paula?
I amend my motion to, because of Terry's comment about the seating, I think the green location will be.
I actually like that better too, just in terms of, it's kind of a little more out of the way, you know.
And so how many seats does that affect?
One.
Well, I guess the question would be, again, what is the cost on that? Because that's what we're deciding.
25 grand, likely.
25.
25,000.
Okay.
And I would get Sean firm pricing once it's in the plan, and I'll get pricing from subs and put a firm cost in front of them.
So I guess we don't have a second yet.
Second.
Okay. Is there further discussion?
Following your the format that you proposed, can we get a, Sean, I'll make this easier for you. Removing the pod from consideration, do you have any recommendation on the 2 room locations?
The green one where the pod was planned to go would be the best location.
Thank you.
So what are we losing on the space?
One seat, that's all. I mean, otherwise this was circulation behind here.
Not losing anything.
So it's gonna it just changes that circulation and makes this destination basically. And it is a little bit more private. You're not coming through in between where people are sitting. You're coming through next to where people are sitting. So it's a little bit more private to get to there. I do think it would be a more pleasant location for a mom. And it also, there's a little room here, for strollers and things like that as you're trying to maneuver into that space. So it does feel like it would give a more welcoming passenger experience.
Okay. Any further discussion? Further discussion? Okay, we've got a motion to, do you want to read it, Joan, just so I have it?
Move forward with a permanent nursing room in the renovated concourse, option 1.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, we'll take a roll call vote.
Shawnee?
Yes.
Ekman?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Ready.
Aye. Okay,
Mr.
that
Chair.
passes. Paula?
I have one more comment since Mary and Gina are on the call and we're under meeting hunt. Or do you want me to add it to old business?
We're like really behind time here, so go ahead and make your comment, but
It recently came to my attention that the 4 private pods that were going to be intended for office use, like in lieu of a business center, a place that you could have your laptop and a little privacy, maybe have a conversation. We're gonna have those 4 pods. And apparently, our counties discontinued those pods, so they were replaced with a seating option, which is currently over by the current Sarah and virtual reality room. And it's more like a couch, so we don't have a business-friendly option for a traveler who wants to make a phone call or take a meeting or, you know.
I think this absolutely merits serious conversation, so at the next meeting, we should take it up with preparation to do so.
Okay.
just kind of going through the rest of this, I think the most important thing would be an update from Stroll on the roof repair. And then I think just looking through this, unless anyone has something else they'd like to pull off, I would just probably hold on the rest of the items on the agenda. Terry?
Well, Joe, you might have.
Yeah.
Or Joe?
So after working with our teams, we have come up with a tolling agreement that we've sent out to all parties that were implicated. So Wells, our subcontractor, Herzog, the most support subcontractor, the airport, Dale and we've asked John to file a warranty claim with Elevate. So he's done that, so Elevate's involved as well. All parties, except for Elevate to this point, have agreed to the tolling agreements. Stacy probably knows more, because I'm certainly not a legal expert, but essentially it brings everyone to the table as a team to be collaborative and work on pushing forward at the same table to figure out how we're all gonna pay for this thing to get the roof repaired and come up with a plan to get it going.
Well, I think the summary on that is the way it was put together, there was a lot of faults in the adhesive. And so rather than just repairing the portion, we're gonna repair the whole roof and make sure the adhesive.
We're still working through that part.
Yeah, that's what we'd like.
Okay.
So, Stacy?
I would just say, generally speaking, with the tolling agreement, I think it's a very good idea so that the parties aren't running to the courthouse because litigation is intense and lengthy. And so what this does is brings all the parties with the ability then to try to negotiate through the issues, and that would be with the various contractors and contractor and subcontractor. And in the agreement, it's only a 1-year agreement, and there is an out clause of any party, including the airport, could give 45 days notice. And after that, if litigation needs to move forward, it moves forward. But I think it's a good idea and important to try to work through these construction issues.
We have to. Yeah. Okay, any other comments on that? I look for a motion to adjourn, but before I do, I know we've got the preliminary 2027 budget. And I think I was asked, Hannah, if you could take the last 3 years of actuals and just at a really high level on those key components, and then add the 2027 budget, kind of another column to that.
Actually, that is in your packet. The actuals for 24 and 25 are in there with the 26 budget and 27 proposed budget. But I can sure add.
Well, let me take a look at that. You may have already done that, but I would say let's all take a look at that if you have any questions for Tana. Anything else that we absolutely need to cover? Paula?
You have to do the public comment.
Public comment. Any public comment? Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
I move. So move.
Is there a second? Second to adjourn, non-debatable.